Happy Friday the 13th. Welcome to today's webinar. You are tuning in for day 4 of the 4-day series on all hazard preparedness and partnership by your instructor, Dr. William R. Latchford. He's president of the Native Peacekeeper Consultant Group. My name is Brooke Warrington. I'm the Training and Development Specialist here at the Native Learning Center. We're also thrilled you could tune in for today's webinar. If you could follow along while I read the disclaimer aloud. This webinar provides a summary of fundamental concepts, requirements, and/or procedures within the allotted 90 minutes. The material discussed does not illustrate all possible scenarios that could be applicable. We also have our copyright infringement law printed here. So just a friendly reminder that the webinar materials are protected by copyright, trademark, trade secret, and other intellectual property laws. If you need to access any of the previous day's recordings, as well as PDFs of the slides, all of that can be found in the courses section here on the learning platform. I encourage you to go around through the different courses we have available on there. We've been doing webinars on this new platform since last October, so we have quite a few available for you. There is a link to today's presentation slides in the chat, and I will put it in the chat once again for easy access. Anytime you join a webinar in the future, you'll just log in during the time that the webinar is happening, and you'll see that green banner at the top of your screen to join. We do ask that you join with listen-only capabilities, if you remember. Just helps to cut down on audio feedback when people come in and out. And if you find that my voice is coming out of the wrong device, maybe you're trying to use your headphones, maybe you have a Bluetooth speaker, if you click on that little telephone icon down at the bottom of the screen, it'll bring up a list of your mic and your speaker devices, so you could choose the right output. We do, of course, encourage class participation. We want to know your comments. We want to know your questions. So the main way that we can interact during today's webinar is going to be through that public chat. If you look at your gray messages panel like you see in the picture, you can open up the public chat by clicking on it, then go down to send message to public chat, click there, and you can type in whatever you want to say, ask, and then you can hit your enter button or click on that paper airplane icon to submit. If you go into the shared notes section, that has a list of important links. And then if you did join with your mic on, no worries. You could always just mute yourself down here at the bottom of your screen. And if you asked a question or made a comment, maybe you think we missed you, you could always use the hand raise feature that's over to the far right. All right, folks, it's really fun to see all the different tribal nations represented, to see who's in the house for today's webinar. So you could take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know your name, where you're tuning in from, your work or your role in Indian country that probably led you to today's webinar, and your tribal affiliation, if you have one. You might be a tribal employee and not have one. That's okay too. And then just a quick final note, know that if you click on that red menu panel that's all the way to the left-hand side of your screen, it is going to immediately pull you out of the webinar, and it's going to take you to whatever you selected. No worries. You could just click on the green banner to join once again, but I want to give you that heads up. All right, folks, while you're introducing yourselves in the chat, it is with great pleasure that I introduce your webinar instructor, Dr. William Latchford. And Will, I have made you presenter now.
All right, good. Thank you, Brooke. I would say happy Friday the 13th, but I know that's kind of one of those days that everybody kind of cringes about. So happy Friday to everybody. Thank you for joining us for webinar number 4 of Building Cross-Sector Partnerships for Resilience Within Tribal Housing. Over the last 4 days, we've encountered the series of All Hazard Preparedness and Partnership series, which consisted of the webinars that relate to risk assessments and all hazard preparedness, to resource management and emergency preparedness, and then yesterday, emergency planning and response strategies. And today we're going to tackle, for the next 85 minutes, we'll tackle the building cross-sector partnerships and kind of see how that can relate and help each other out, so we break those silos and we operate in a manner as a team, always a team, for the betterment of the community we serve, because that's what it's all about. And you never win as an individual. You have to have the team atmosphere and the team aspect, and it takes everybody to join into that team, and you're only as good as your weakest link. So we'll talk a little bit about some strategies as we progress today. As Brooke indicated, my name is Will Latchford. I'm a 32-year public safety veteran. About 32 years ago, I had the opportunity to start with the Seminole Tribe of Florida. They gave me an opportunity to start boots on the ground as a police officer. And through my career and that opportunity, I was able to attend the top of the line educational and leadership classes, along with just learn Indian country, learn about the Seminole Tribe of Florida, and learn how it meshes with the rest of the environment that surrounds the reservations here in Florida. And then I was also provided that opportunity to travel around the country and help other Indian tribes out when it came to crises. So I'm thankful for that opportunity. And, you know, we all get opportunities that are presented to us, and it's really not necessarily the opportunity itself. It's how we respond to that opportunity. So one of the avenues for me to respond is to always give back. So the tribe gave me this opportunity 32 years ago to really build a dynamic career that made an impact, not just in the Seminole Tribe of Florida communities, but across the country, Indian country specifically. So I'm honored for that. I have a bachelor's degree in public administration from Barry University, a master's degree in Homeland Security Criminal Justice from St. Leo University, and emergency management. And then my doctorate, which I recently just received in February, is from St. Leo University in criminal justice, with the highlight and specific area of tribal law enforcement leadership and how that takes part when it comes to being successful in your tribal community. So I'm thankful for the opportunity. Thank you for joining us today and allowing me to present this fourth webinar of the series, All Hazard Preparedness and Partnership. A little bit about Native Peacekeeper Consultant Group. It's a certified Native Seminole woman-owned organization. We're an accredited consultant organization. We're going through a second accreditation through the IACET accreditation, which will allow us to provide continuing education credits for any training that we provide that meets the criteria. So we're excited about the future here. Within the next several months, we should be in a good position to obtain that second accreditation. Amy's philosophy has always been to give back and to really just enhance whatever you put your hand on. So as our mission statement, it's to empower organizations by providing comprehensive and sustainable safety solutions by fostering partnerships that enhance safety and effectiveness within tribal communities by applying our philosophy. And our slogan of our organization is elevating public safety today for a safer tomorrow, specifically targeting and promoting Native American public safety. So some of the services that Native Peacekeeper Consultant Group delivers to organizations, from tribal governments, public safety, tribal housing, education institutions, gaming institutions, or just business institutions alone, comes down to program developments, just that partnership that an organization can have with the community or their partners in other industries, leadership development, employee development, policy development and policy creation, emergency management planning, crisis planning, vulnerability assessments, comprehensive public safety training, and live training. We'll do tabletop exercises. We have a research component that's with our business, and part of that research component provided me the opportunity to be the co-director of Florida State University's Native American Crime and Justice Institute policy co-director. So I'm very thankful and honored to have that relationship with Florida State. And then we look at schools and the safety of schools to make sure that the kids and the students are protected while at school. So we also offer a learning management system. We have 1,300 soft skill and computer skill courses that we offer through our training module, and that'll be with the addition of the continuing education credits once we obtain that second accreditation. So we're very proud of the organization and what we can do to assist and enhance your organization is really what our goal is. As we navigate today in this fourth webinar, if I make any comments or you identify some contradictions in what I say versus what your current policy is in your organization, your success is paramount to us. So we defer you back to your policy. Follow your policy, but it gives you an opportunity to have that discussion with your bosses. Gives you the opportunity to really start and generate that conversation to determine if your policies are where they should be. Do they have to be improved? Does it have to be changed? Is your policy wrong? So it gives you that opportunity if you do identify something that may contradict, or you see that there's a little bit of difference from what I said or I present. And at the end of the day, if you come out with that assessment that your policy is right on and it's what works for your community and best interest in your community, then I encourage you to stick with that. If it's something that you need to improve on, the good part about it is you brought it to light. You're able to identify it. You're able to find that solution to enhance that policy to make your organization and make all the employees better. If you find out what I said was wrong, please reach out to me and have that discussion with me so I can correct anything on my end and do that research to make sure that I provide that right information in the future and I correct any issues that I may have. We always can learn from each other. Apologize for that slip in the PowerPoint. We always can learn from each other, and I'm very big on just being transparent and making sure that we learn from each other and we can take away good opportunities from each other to implement in our organizations. So as we travel today in this fourth webinar, Tribal Housing Authority, Building Resilient Communities Through Collective Impact. One of the things that I stress to you when we go through this, if you take anything away from it, is that don't just look at this discussion as a one-off to crises or emergency management. A lot of times we put things into compartmentalize, or we create silos with the information we have. And the reality is, when we look at partnering for the betterment of the community, it should be an everyday process for us. It should be a way of life for us. So these partnerships that we're going to talk about today and different environments tribal housing can tap into, you want to start looking at it from a holistic picture where it just becomes part of your process. It's not just from a crisis standpoint. It's not just when something bad happens or the community is impacted. It's an everyday process that you can build off. It's a flowing process. It's a practical process, and you'll have a partnership with multiple different programs within your tribe, multiple different programs if you're open to that outside of your tribe, and you create those boundaries, right? The biggest thing is to create the boundaries, respect the other programs, respect the other organizations, but also respect that they're going to respect your position as well, right? And one of the big areas that we all recognize that needs to be respected is tribal sovereignty, and we'll talk just briefly on that. So as we go through the journey today, we're going to talk about cross-sector partnerships and identifying some engaging strategies with several partners. We're going to build on trust and shared goals, looking at creating foundations for sustainable collaboration. We're going to look at some governance models and collective problem solving that I see that you may be able to use. And then we're going to connect with some housing broader wellness when it comes to social determinants and addressing some of the health needs that may be in your housing authority. So I will most likely have a little bit of time from this PowerPoint at the end, and I want to pass some information along that I think you should hear in regards to transitioning into the future and kind of how does it look with FEMA and a housing standpoint, and some of the things that you could do to prepare yourself if there is a change in FEMA, right? If there is a transition or a change, I'll pass along some things that some organizations that I've had discussions with over the last 48 hours that they can do to improve their organization. So I'll pass some of those little nuggets along to you so you can focus on your program, not necessarily focusing on what FEMA does or what it doesn't do. It's more for you. So as I talked about earlier, we want to make sure we recognize and honor the sovereignty and the wisdom of the tribe that we work for, right? And so part of the partnership, we have to recognize the past, we have to recognize the environment that we're in, and we hope that people, if it's outside the tribes, that they recognize the tribe and the historical traumas and the challenges that were faced within the tribal community. So when they approach the partnership or some mutual aids or service-oriented issues, we want to make sure that they just understand what they're walking into and that they respect the boundaries, they respect the community, and they respect the heritage of importance as they navigate through that partnership and that service provision. We want to also encourage them to learn as much as they can about the environment so they know how to navigate, they know how to talk to people, they know how to respect people. And they can go through that process by eliminating any myths that they may have heard or believed. So we want to make sure that when we go through this process, we open those doors, but also open them slowly to get them to recognize that it's a two-way street. It's a two-way street with respect, regardless if it's a program in the tribe or a program outside the tribe. It's always about a two-way street. A team has to work together. They have to respect each other, respect the boundaries, and the overall total environment. So when we look at the collective impact, this is a definition that I put up there that I think really describes the collective impact of that partnership. And the collective impact is a structured approach to collaboration that brings together organizations from different sectors or programs to solve complex social problems. Unlike simple coordination and cooperation, collective impact involves a deeper commitment to the shared goals and systematic change. This approach recognizes that no single organization can address the complex community challenges alone. Instead, it requires an intentional collaboration across programs and sectors shared with measurements of outcomes and ongoing communication. So the bottom line is this, is that on an average day, you in tribal housing is the subject matter expert in housing, and you deal great with issues that you respond to your community and try to navigate those expectations and the requests that your tenants have for you. When the bell rings and a crisis happens or an emergency happens and a community is negatively impacted, that's the piece where collective impact comes in. It's not that every day just check the box, and that every day, every monthly activity that we go through that becomes monotonous for us, right? This collective impact and this approach and this thought process looks through like a global collaboration for your tribe, right? So it's about bringing all the tribal programs together to support you. And then when somebody else needs support, you're already part of that process. The roles just change. You just change hats and you become the supporter and not the supportee. So I like to keep things simple. So if you look at it through those directions to where it's not the everyday collaboration, it's the overall emergency collaboration. But if you do it every day, when that emergency hits, you're going to minimize and you'll mitigate some of those stressors that you may be put on, right? So we want to look beyond simple coordination, dig deeper into the occasional information sharing and specific partnership, right? We want to open ourselves up to really make our brains hurt. We want to look into these issues from a 10,000 foot level all the way down to a 500 foot level, and really look at it from an objective standpoint, and look at it together. So we know what we're looking at and we can solve the problems together as a community as a whole. So tribal housing, being the subject matter experts in the housing area and having your tenants, there's times where you're going to be the point person and everybody is going to be the supporting entity to tribal housing in this collective impact. There's other times those roles will reverse and you and your staff may be impacting others by supporting other tribal programs, right? So you want to look at the systematic approach. Everything's going to be methodical, right? And this is all beforehand, before that crisis happens. So you want to get all these processes in place. And then you want to continue to visit them and make sure that they're working for you and navigate those challenges as they come up. So you're not getting behind and you're not feeling that pressure and stress. It's a fluid process when we look at the collective impact. And then we want to bring together all the programs within the tribe and outside the tribe. So I'll talk a little bit about outside the tribe today, but I want to focus a lot on the internal mechanisms of the tribe, because I think a lot of times, and through my experience, I found that programs work in silos. And I know, although I ran public safety and I had over 500 or just under 500 employees across 10 geographical locations, I know sometimes we worked in silos. And I found myself trying to battle out of those silos and get the staff to look at the bigger picture. So I know that's an ongoing process. It's not a one-off or something you can just tell somebody, don't be in a silo, and then they don't get in a silo. Sometimes the environment pushes everybody to work within themselves or their program. So we want to, as leaders, we want to make sure we try and break that, or we stay on top of it. So when the issue comes up, we can address it right away and we can focus on that responsibility of working together and sharing information with each program. So when I look at the 5 conditions of collective impacts, when I put this together, I looked at a couple different things. So I looked at the common agenda. A lot of times we have shared visions within our organization, right? Our vision may be accurate for tribal housing, but the other part of that is our vision may be shared with the utility department, with public safety, with the health department. So we have common agendas. The police want to make sure the community's safe. Tribal housing wants to make sure the community's safe. The health department wants to make sure the community's safe and healthy. Tribal housing has that same agenda. They want to make sure that their apartments and houses are sterile. They want to make sure they're clean. They want to make sure that their residents are healthy. So there's a lot of common agendas here. We have the issue with utilities, the roads. We want to make sure the roads are in good condition. There's running water. The pipes are all in good condition. The sewage is working correctly. The garbage men are coming to pick up the trash when they're supposed to pick it up to keep the environment clean. All these are shared topics that it's just not the garbage men. It's just not the health department. It's just not the police or fire department. It's everybody, right? So we have common agendas when we look at the collective impact. Another area we looked at is shared measurements, right? We collect data measuring results consistent across participants, right? So if the police department sets, excuse me one second. Sorry about that. The phone was plugged in the office there. Get situated again. I apologize. So when we look at shared measurements, we sometimes have the same customers, and with those same customers, a lot of times the information we get, others can use, right? So if we do surveys or we do interviews in the community, we can kind of gather information that can be used across programs. And sometimes we forget about that because we're so focused on what our needs are of our program, right? So I encourage you to keep that shared measurement mentality to where if you need data or information before you go out and do it, ask other programs if that's the case, if they have it, right? So for instance, if you're looking to see how many people come into your residential area, instead of going out and getting the equipment to do that or going to interview everybody to see how many neighbors and visitors they have, the utility department may be doing a road study. And that road study may be collecting all the cars, the traffic that goes in and goes out, the time frame it goes in. So you can use that data without reinventing the wheel, right? So that's what a collective impact or a partnership does when we look at the shared measurements. And each program in the tribe has that opportunity to share that data with you. So just keep that in mind as you navigate, because they have a lot of resources that you can utilize. One of the things that I'll share, and I think sometimes we get locked into, we have to follow policy, we have to follow law. But when we follow law, there are some things that aren't covered or hunkered down under law, right? So the health department and the education departments have HIPAA rules, they have information rules that they can't provide to you or me because it's protected information. And we don't want that protected information. But there is a sense of that information that they do get that is not protected, and it's generalized, right? So you can get that generalized information that's not protected. It's just common information that they get that you can use to help do assessments. You can do assessments through surveys that they may put out. The other part is you can do collective measurements when it comes to collaborating with them to do surveys and other programs. We did a safety survey within the public safety department for the community. And one thing we didn't do is we should have went to housing and said, okay, what are the areas that you see that may not be safe or that you may want to question the residents with? Vice versa, if housing was going to do it before they put the survey out, they could come to the public safety department and say, hey, this is what we're doing. Would you want to participate with this survey with us and give us some questions that you think you want answered? So when those results come back, you can share that data. And that's really what a partnership and when I view collective impact, that's how we do things. We can collectively come together to impact positively the community. Mutual reinforcement activities, again, coordinated activities that support the common agenda. You know, from a public safety standpoint, you know, law enforcement, fire rescue sometimes is a necessary evil, and they're very expensive. It's an expensive, security is not free, basically, right? So a lot of times we would want to do community events. Well, doing community events, we can lean on housing to do a community event in their community, and then we can show up. It's a public safety housing event, and we work together to share those cross information and break those barriers, right? You can do that from tribal housing. You can do the same thing with the health department. Do a substance abuse barbecue or a night out with your health department. Bring them in and allow them to teach your community, you know, substance abuse and how to take care of themselves, just dieting across the whole board. There's many of topics that you can use once you start that collaboration. And I share this with you when we look at collective impacts. I share this with you because I think it's important that in order for the tribe, for any tribe to be successful, the programs have to be at the top of their game every day, and they have to be working together. They cannot have silos. They're going to have differences. There's going to be personality challenges, but if we bring them together and reinforce the commitment to do things together, we can organize activities within the community that address common agendas, and we can do it together and be a partner in it. Right? Communication is a whole nother issue that we want to make sure we stay on top of. Messaging. Tribal housing does a great job getting the information out to the community. Other departments can utilize that same process of however you get your communication out. You send out a newsletter. If you send one out every month, maybe you want to add a public safety paragraph in there, a public safety section, a health section. So if you do a newsletter to your community, partner with the other programs and give them a section in your newsletter so they can put information in there to go out to your community. Just as something as simple as that can help and improve your program. And then, of course, the backbone of support is the staff. You know, the staff and the infrastructure. You know, employees are great, and sometimes they have a hard job to do. So we want to make sure that we recognize the employees, and they see a lot of things that they may not tell you as subordinates. So as a leader, you want to make sure you create that environment of accountability, but also openness to where they can talk to you about things that they may see, and then allow them to work with other programs, allow them to partner with other programs, because I'm sure they've created those relationships with the utilities department, with public safety, with recreation, with education, with the health department. All these areas your employees have created relationships with, and they're more of acquaintances. And sometimes they lose the vision that don't look at it through acquaintances or friends. Look at it as coworkers, and coworkers can share information to improve the environment from a housing standpoint or a utility or public safety standpoint, all across the board for all the tribal programs. So you want to make sure that you encourage them for backbone support. So this slide right here, the 5 conditions of collective impact I put together, it's something that I think really represents just that teamwork, that effort, that partnership. And if you can take this slide and you can incorporate in common agenda, shared measurements, mutual reinforcement activities, the continuous communication and backbone support, you take this slide and you use it to operate within your housing program, I think you're going to be more dynamic, and you're going to provide a higher level of service to the members in your community. Let's talk a little bit about tribal impact through a tribal lens, right? So you have a community wellness, the holistic outcome of all tribal members, right? So the partnership also not only with tribal programs is also that partnership within your tenants and the overall tribal community, right? So there is absolutely nothing wrong with having a partnership, and it's truly encouraged to have that partnership to really take in consideration the wellness of your community, how they're doing, just their overall well-being, right? And that's going to show that you care about the community, and you're just not the big bad landlord that's taken care of and comes and does the inspections and that they call and complain on, right? Make it in an environment where it's a two-way street. They see that you care about them, but you're going to hold them accountable to the contract and to the community needs. And you want to create an environment where they can live and play and fellowship with each other and their neighbors in the community and do it safe, right? You want to be a consensus builder. You want to collectively use those resources that are within your community. And at the same point, you want to make sure you involve the cultural aspect or traditional aspects of your community. Collective impact naturally aligns with many traditional tribal values. The emphasis on consensus, shared responsibility, and working for the greater good resonates with tribal people in every community. And that's what I've seen over my career, just that overall community governance and overall ownership that tribal members have of their community. And sometimes as employees, we lose that fact because of that stress that's upon us. So just always kind of remember that, take a breath, take a step back, look at it through the lens of the tribal member, look at it through the lens of the member or your tenant, and kind of see it from their view. And that's what looking through a tribal lens can do for you. Is they may not always be right, but they have the opportunity to teach us something. And if we take the opportunity to just listen and combine their wellness and the traditional healing and traditional practices, and just their issues, right? So they all have issues that may be their issue, but they're looking for somebody to help them, and they may take it out on you, but it's not necessarily done in purpose. Is they're just looking for that solution, and they may be frustrated. So just remember, if you take a step back, try to look at it through their lens, because collective impact can become a powerful framework that honors the community, it honors the tradition, and it provides that framework that where you can effectively address any housing challenge or issue that you may have. We want to work together for the greater good. Again, tribal members contribute skills and knowledge to housing projects that reflect cultural values and meet community needs. I can't tell you how many times over my career I leaned on tribal members who, they were Chakee builders, they're carpenters, general contractors, and from a public safety standpoint, I would reach out to them for issues that were happening in the community, an elder's home that I saw there were some issues there that needed to be fixed, and the elder may not have had the funds to do it or who to call. You have those resources in housing, so you want to allow yourself that opportunity to identify who your tenants are that you can lean on, that you can partner with, right? So you may want to develop some sort of partnership or contract that they can help you out within the community, right? Again, the elder population has a tremendous attribute to teach us what happened in the past, so we don't either recreate what happened in the past that went wrong or to guide us into the future. So bring the elders in and partner with them to have a night out or a day out to where people can sit around and learn about the history of the community, and just let the elders have that opportunity to share. And I will tell you, from the standpoint of the elders, that will actually help them feel part of the community. They won't feel lost that none of us want to get old. So when we look at that concept and ensuring that we want to stay young, this gives them the opportunity to stay young and collaborate with their own members within the community. And again, I talked about the housing staff working together along with the health department, education, cultural preservation, just public safety across the board. So working together for the greater good should always be the concept that we use in tribal housing as we approach any needs that are occurring in the community. So when we identify some of these areas, I want to just touch base a little bit on this slide with some of the organizations that we're going to touch base with. So we look at the health department, right? So as tribal housing, when we look at the health department, they can come in and really identify for you some of the issues they may be seeing. They're not going to tell you who those issues are with, but they can come in and they can create presentations to you. If they're having a drug problem or a substance abuse problem within the surrounding areas or the areas, they may come in and give an educational program. If you partner with them, they can give an educational awareness program to your community, letting them know that here's the issues that are in the community, keep your children safe, and also here's the resources that are available to them, right? They can provide their pamphlets, they can provide all the necessary numbers. And when you sign somebody up as a new tenant, the health department can provide you with a packet to give that family to where if they need somebody to talk to, or they're feeling depressed, or they're having substance abuse issues, or they have children that maybe they think are on substance abuse issues. What do we do? You can provide those packets when somebody signs up to be a tenant. So if you start thinking and forecasting and partnering with these other tribal programs, you're going to be able to see what they can do for you. And then the gates are open. You can step right in and you can develop very intricate plans that will assist you as you navigate providing that service to your community. Social services, behavioral health, family services, whatever that title is that they support, counseling, that's another area. People are afraid, which is very understandable. They don't want anybody to know their problems. They don't want to be embarrassed to say that they made a mistake or they have these issues and they just can't get through it, right? If you have an opportunity to partner with your family services, social services, and create it in advance where you can provide your residents either training, pamphlets, information highway that they can call, where they don't have to be embarrassed and they just don't want to reach out because they're too embarrassed. You're giving it to them without any issues going on. So they have it at their fingertips and they can go ahead and make those phone calls without being embarrassed. They can be comfortable, and it could solve problems within your community. It could solve issues that you won't have to deal with from that standpoint. Again, domestic violence issues, that's a big issue in every community. That is something, again, provide them the information. Not that you're saying everybody has issues. Not everybody gets along, and sometimes there's disagreements. How does that escalate? Does it escalate into domestic violence issues? Well, if it does, you may have a spouse, a husband or a wife that feels that they're a domestic violence victim, and they may be afraid to step out. Well, if you're providing a packet to them when they sign on and they sign the lease that gives them that opportunity to know who to call, when they need that help, you can partner with them, right? So you can provide this opportunity just by partnering and understanding what those other programs do. We'll talk a little bit about FEMA towards the end, but I know you partner with HUD, Tribal Housing and HUD. That's a partnership that you can always lean on, and I would press it. I would press it to just like any other partner you have, hold them accountable, make sure that they're doing what they can to support you, and you're doing what you can to ensure you follow all their policies and practices. And then you have the private sector. Sometimes partnering with different private construction or tribal construction companies and suppliers, you can have them work with you to provide a nice service to the community. At the end of the day, the people that live in your community are their customers. So if they go out of their house and they go buy something somewhere, or they need some help fixing something in their house or their friend's house or their family's house that may not be in a housing environment, you can have an opportunity to partner those private sectors and allow them time to educate the community on the how-to when they need something done, right? Sometimes you can just teach your residents how to do things, and then they won't call you and say, hey, can you come fix my light bulb, right? They may already know how to do it because somebody taught them from that private sector standpoint. So effective tribal housing solutions require partnerships that extend beyond just a housing authority by yourself, right? You're not in a silo. Identify those engaging partners, and these are only a few. So you, in your environment, and identify who those potential partners are that you can collaborate with to use their expertise, use their resources to support and address any issues that your residents may need. Each potential partner brings a unique perspective and resource that can complement what you do every day, right? It's about supporting you in tribal housing, and you can create a more comprehensive and sustainable solution for the community and the members that you serve. When we look at collaborating and what are the benefits, right? Benefits are, if we collaborate, better emergency response, we can coordinate emergency management, we can coordinate health, infrastructure providers, we can do better coordination as we progress forward. Any health-related issues, again, we're going to address those issues from mold, indoor air quality, accessibility, any health concerns, right? So the health department can come in and provide that, and the medical providers can come in, teach CPR, they can teach stop the bleed. One of the big issues is just that quality of air, right? We're on the outside, we all smell the different pollutions that are there, right? We don't want that same smell in our homes. So by partnering with the health department and doing the air quality control, that's something that you can really provide that service to your residents. Housing departments and maintenance, again, you may have your own maintenance department, but go one step forward. Identify those areas that you traditionally call in or you see that can help residents, so you're not in that position where they think you're supposed to do 0 to 100 to them, right? Provide that opportunity so they learn, they have ownership, because a rental property, although you own it and you're the landlord, you want to make sure they take ownership in that property, that they understand they're renting it. They have an obligation to treat that property as if it's their own, right? And a lot of times I think in rental communities, some people don't see that, but you want to create that environment so that's always seen that, yes, you're our tenant. We appreciate you being here. You're a valued customer to us, but we want you to take care of this as if it's your own. And when you leave, if you leave after a year or 6 months, we want this place to be, if not the same, close to the way you found it, right? We don't want holes in the wall. We don't want the carpet all chewed up and just everything broke inside the house. So if you create that standard, 99.9% of your tenants will respect that if they understand that community. I'm a big believer in that. Support services, again, you want to be in collaboration with education, the elder department. You can bring education in that can do different aspects of teaching to your community, right? If you're in a community, there's kids there, there's a future for kids. That's the future. Bring your education department in. Let them talk about colleges. Let them bring the colleges into your community to give assessments, at your community meeting or even just a barbecue or a get-together. Have them come in and give speeches on kind of career pathing when it comes to students, on which different ways you can go as you go through your education life, right? Not everybody's going to go to the 4-year big university. Some may take the technical aspect and go to a technical school. Some may go down the military. Some may not be able to afford college right away. They may have to go to a junior college or a state college before they go to their college that they want to go to, or their goal college, right? So I know, like here in Florida, you don't have to necessarily go, and there may be you may not have got chosen or accepted into a school, the bigger school. So you may go to a local school or a community college or a state college that's here, and then after 2 years, you automatically can transfer into the bigger 4-year universities if that's what your goal is. So there's more than one way to accomplish your goals, and by bringing education into the tribal housing department and giving them that platform, it can help you out, and also you can be the streamline to ensure that you're manifesting your community to always be better. And through that process, they will take ownership of the community that they're living in. Here's a partnership profile template that I created. It's very simplistic. It's the partner's name, the role and the expertise, the resource contribution, right? And then the alignment with the goals. So when we look at tribal health, the role and expertise is they're the experts in health. They can do health assessments. They can provide services to you. What are their resources? They have a bunch of screening. You can create an environment to where they can do blood pressure checks or sugar checks, and put them in your office. The other part is you can have a referral system, right? So if somebody is in your office and it looks like that they may need help, you may be able to refer them to the health department or the social services and let them come out and visit the person, right? So you can make that phone call or that connection to refer somebody if you see that they may need help. And how's that align? It gives you a healthy home initiative within your community. Emergency management, disaster planning response, training and coordination. The alignment is housing resilient planning, right? You can have emergency management come in and do a training with the community, with your tenants, just to keep it at the forefront of disaster planning. Cultural department, again, it's the traditional knowledge, the heritage, the historical importance of the culture, so it's not lost, right? You can bring them in. They can design community engagement activities, and you can always make sure when you look at the aligning with housing goals, your culture are appropriate, right? Local construction firms, Building expertise, right? We all live in houses, and sometimes we don't know how the inner workings of that house is. They can come in, they can provide training, they can look at the resources that they have. If you need material or you need something as far as the maintenance, you can set that up where you're partnering with them and for materials, training, and just labor overall, right? And how does that happen? It provides you the opportunity to develop a good core housing development and maintenance plan. By creating detailed profiles of potential partners, it'll help you as the Tribal Housing Authority identify the most strategic collaborations that you need to have. This is a small template that you can just use. It's very simplistic that will allow you to reach your goals. Consider adding a column of trust level, right? Contact leads or previous collaboration history to create a comprehensive partnership to the database of your housing authority. You can build off of this, right? At the end of the day, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have agreements with all these organizations in place on an average day, and you're using them to build that partnership to make tribal housing more effective and efficient. Right. So when we look at building trust with your partners, you want to begin the relationship with the appropriate culture acknowledgement, right? You want to understand what that other side is. You want to understand where they're at. You want to understand and take the time to understand the specifics of how they're operating within the community. You want to clearly establish the expectations when you talk to these other programs, right? So when you're going to talk to them and you want to let them know and clearly communicate what your role is, what the responsibilities are, and kind of how you work through timelines. You want to be transparent and about limitations and potential challenges that you may have, so you avoid any misunderstandings within your partnership. Same goes for that partner or that other program. You want to make sure that they provide you clear expectations and they can provide you what their limitations are, right? You want to demonstrate your commitment, follow through on your promises, and maintain the consistent communication with them. Show up for meetings, be prepared, be on time, be active, demonstrate respect to your other programs, and provide them that expertise that you have, and listen to their expertise that may be able to complement the expertise that you have, right? Again, you want to recognize the cultural atmosphere. You want to be humble when it comes to that. So you want to approach the relationship with openness, learn, and the willingness to adapt to that other program and that organizational culture. Oh, hit the wrong button. You don't get a second chance for a first impression, right? So we've all heard that before. So first impression matters. This is a slide that I put together that really it's a three minute drill introduction, right? You want to introduce yourself when you meet, you take that first step and you meet that program to talk about things, right? And talk about that partnership. Clearly state your position and your authority. Share a brief overview of what your organization does. Invite their perspective on how they see your program or see what you do, right? And express what your long-term vision is, right? Express to them that you want to work together with them, that you appreciate their expertise, you appreciate the work that they do in the community when it comes to their subject matter expert, but you want to partner with them so you can be a force multiplier to make that community better. When meeting with potential partners for the first time, you want to make sure you initiate that discussion and use a 3-minute introduction, right? Just kind of lay it out for them to let them know this is who you are, this is what you're trying to get through, right? And remember that building trust is an ongoing process. This is just the beginning of that trust build, right? So it requires you to be consistent. You have to be very committed, follow through, and you have to provide that mutual respect to each other. You want to define your shared goals in your memorandum of understanding or your paperwork, right? So you want to define your shared goals. You want to make sure that your statement captures the ultimate outcome for not just you, but for your partners, right? So you're working together and you want to reflect what those housing goals are and the broader community wellness is, right? You want to create resource responsibility. Be clear in delineating on what each partner will contribute, right? Include funding, staff time, expertise, facilities, other resources. Don't leave anything out. Be transparent, be open when it comes to this type of process, right? Cultural aspect, if there's any issues that you deal with, in your system, you want to let them know, right? There's certain things from a cultural aspect that you need to do and you're required to do for your program. Make sure those other programs know that, not just so they know, but so they can respect and they can process through the protocols, so they can collaborate on making sure that they're supportive and successful for you, right? And again, communication expectations. You want to communicate those expectations. You want to be clear. You want to be frequent. You want to be reporting that information in the decision-making process. And you also want to make sure that you share everything you can and put it all on the table so you all know what you're dealing with from a program-to-program relationship. One of the case studies that I came together to put these to put into this slide, into this presentation is, and this is an emergency shelter and wellness hub, right? So the initial vision is Tribal Housing Authority and the health clinic leaders meet to discuss the concept of a combined emergency shelter with wellness hub to serve the community during the crisis, right? What you want to do is you want to put a formal agreement together, develop a memorandum of understanding outlining the shared goals, resource commitments, operational responsibilities, and for both organizations, right? Collaborative design, joint planning sessions with the architects of who's designing the shelter, any culture advisors you need there, community members that need to participate, create a facility design that meets with both the emergency housing and a health service need. Coordinated implementation, shared oversight of the construction with regular joint meetings to address challenges, ensure the facility meets both housing and health requirements. And of course, to bring all the operations together, you want to develop the shared staffing model, service protocols, community access guidelines that bring together housing, health very seamlessly. So this would be an MOU that you could create on one project, right? So my suggestion to you is you can have MOUs like this, but you also want a bigger MOU from relationship to relationship or partner to partner. So you can have one-offs like this one, but you also need a MOU or just a how-to each program is going to work together, so you both understand what each other's roles are on a day-to-day basis. Some of the governance models that I identified for a sustainable partnership is the coalition model. That's a formal alliance of organizations that, with defined memberships, regular meetings, you often meet together. You have steering committees. You work well for long-term initiatives. It's structured leadership, formal memberships that, it's always the same people that are in the room, and you have regularly scheduled meetings, right? So that's the coalition model. Networking model is a little different. It's more flexible, structured, of just basically the organization connecting as needed, not on regular meetings, just kind of as needed. It's very flexible, allows for varying levels of involvement based on the organizational capacity, right? Sometimes you don't have employees that can go to meetings, so each meeting you're sending somebody new. This is that networking because there's no consistency as there is in the coalition model. And then you have the MOU-based work group, right? This is a partnership that's formalized in the MOU with clear objective, timelines, responsibilities, best practices that are put in there. It's project specific. It's got a project specific focus. There's clear start and end dates where you're working through the process. I like this model of the MOU because you can create really an overall document that you can work from. You can gain knowledge of, and it's fluid, right? And you can pass it along to everybody. And in your organization in tribal housing, you can keep accountability together. You can make sure you hold your employees accountable because this document's going to be fluid. It may change, but it gives you that opportunity to put it out and keep your employees informed. When we look at collaborative decision-making as a decision-making tool, it's power and sharing. We're more stronger in numbers when we ensure all partners have meaningful input in their decisions. You want everybody to have ownership, and that includes your community. You want to make sure your community has ownership, and by creating a power sharing principle within your tribal housing and your housing environment, it's going to provide that opportunity for collaboration. Data-informed approach, again, you can do surveys, you can do interviews, you can bring storytelling opportunities in there that provide that opportunity for data data-informed approach. Again, we want to honor and bring the cultural aspect in it. And I think it's important because it keeps people grounded when they understand that not only are you there from a business opportunity, you have the cultural aspect as well. And then conflict resolution. This is a big one. Conflict resolution is to establish clear processes by addressing disagreements and that respect tribal governance while maintaining partnership integrity. People come into your office and they're not happy, right? Something that they may not agree with, right? Maybe one of your employees in tribal housing didn't do the job the way it should have been done, or that expectation. That resonates with your community. What's the conflict resolution method that you bring that tribal member or that community member back to even keel, to where they're not holding that grudge against your employees? They're not holding that egregious attitude whenever they see housing. You're mistreating your employees, right? So you want to make sure that through your process, even when you have collaboration and mutual understandings, you want to make sure you have a conflict resolution method in place so you can keep a pulse on within your community. You also want to look at, as you progress, you want to look at what you're doing good, what you're doing not so good, and how long you've been doing it, right? So you want to keep a matrix like this or similar to this that allows you the opportunity to see kind of how good you're doing, how ready you are, what your well-being is. So you can create the graph however you set it up, but you want to have some sort of tracking mechanism in place so you can see that you're always improving, that you're making a difference, right? You want to make sure that you have those two criteria. You're always improving and you're making a difference. You're positively impacting people's lives by the decision and the work that you're doing within your tribal housing. Documentation is the key. You want to make sure you document all your success stories. The way you can do this is just through a newsletter or a monthly, white paper that you send out. You want to make sure that you showcase, how the elders are impacting your community or the health department's impacting your community, whoever you're partner with. You want to make sure you document that. You can create that through any type of design that's going to get the information out on everything you're doing. So capture it. Share your success. Let people know that you're doing improvements, that you're getting better every day, and you're providing that high level of service for their best interest, right? Don't just do it to check a box. Do it when it's meaningful. Do it because it has to be meaningful. You want people to understand you're in it to win it. You're just not in it for your name or for, a check a box. You're in it to make sure that they get the highest level of service from your housing authority. When we look at planning for partnership sustainability, right? So you want to make sure this could be looked at as a strategic plan. You want to have a 3 or 5 year commitment when it comes to your mutual partnerships, right? So when you do your MOU, you can do it annually. I would do it maybe 2 to 3 years, 3 to 5 years, and then you always visit the document. You could get caught up in some of these issues to where you become the paper reviewer all the time with everything else you got going on, and then things get behind. If you know the document's not going to be changed and you can just review the document, or you have to make minor edits, don't renew it every year. Do it 3 to 5, 2 to 3, 2 to 4, and it gives you that opportunity to do quarterly reviews. It gives you the opportunity to bring it back to the staff, let them look from a bottom-up view and then a top-down leadership view, so you can look at the MOU or the partnership and see what needs to be changed, or even see what's not in the document and what you can add to make the document better and make your overall service better. So it's something you want to consider as you progress forward and you do this partnership MOU style approach. For example, housing and health, critical intersections, right? How do they connect with each other? Well, you have emergency preparedness, you have the health component, air quality, behavioral health. And this is just one example that I wanted to put up to, there's, like the Seminole Tribe has over 72 programs in the tribe. You may want to have 72 slides to see how those critical intersections are, what each program can provide to you. And if you sit down and you just start with one program and say, okay, what's the critical intersections? How does that other program contribute to my success being the housing authority. And if you build each slide like this for every program, you'll be able to see how beneficial it's going to be for you to partner with these programs. They're going to be able to see how well it is and how beneficial it is for you to partner with them and then partner with you. And then you work together in the betterment of the community. You know, we talked about it over the last 4 days, the emergency preparedness, the collaboration. We can't do this by ourselves, right? We always have to do this together. And by doing that from an emergency preparedness standpoint, you know, pre-disaster planning, immediate response, recovery, partnership, and mitigation improvements. You know, from a tribal housing perspective, emergency management is usually the contact into the federal government or reimbursement, and risk management when it comes to your insurance. So you want to make sure that you have an MOU with your emergency management department and find out what those expectations are that they can provide you, right? You want to know what service level they can provide you, and so you understand what that looks like. And then you want to know how it's going to evolve, right? How does the wheels on the car move? What direction do they go? Do they move all together? Do all these components have to work together in order to be successful? And what level do they work at? So you want to make sure from an emergency standpoint that you collaborate with your emergency managers in your tribe. Go to them, set an MOU in place, and all that is, it's just a template to show what you're going to be able to do for emergency management, and then you're going to know, and they're going to tell you what they're going to do for you in tribal housing. Excuse me. When we look at behavioral health crisis, same thing. We talked a little bit about it. You know, you have emergencies in your community. I think this is a great concept that's not utilized a lot, or I should say enough, in tribal communities. You're fortunate enough to have the medical field within your organization, within your community, unlike outside communities where the population is outnumbered for the facilities they have. You have tribal housing that are tribal clinics that can come in, and you can partner with them to identify those crises that they see that they may be dealing with every day. It gives you the opportunity to coordinate response with either the health department or behavioral health. You can do on-site intervention. You can provide them office space where they can come in and check blood pressure, maybe just meet with somebody in a non-threatening or non-adversarial way, and just to ask questions, right? Everybody's afraid to go to the doctor's office. They have the white coat syndrome. You know, maybe if you provide an opportunity for the health department to be on site, people would interact and feel more comfortable going to see the doctor. And again, housing stabilization maintains your housing during and after crisis when it comes to their health, to where they understand, you know, to make sure they sustain a safe and clean house. Tribal housing authorities and behavioral health services, you can collaborate with them. You can create seamless systems by identifying and responding to the mental health crisis, trauma-informed training. This partnership ensures the housing remains stable during difficult times, and you can receive that cultural and medical appropriate staff or appropriate support. Training housing staff to recognize warning signs, establish clear communication channels with health providers, creates a safety net that can prevent crises that escalate and help maintain housing authorities' vulnerable community members. Ask family services or the mental health providers in your community to come and train your employees on how to talk with difficult people when it comes to someone who's on substance, or how to identify somebody that may be on substance so they can keep themselves safe, right? Give them those tools so when they go out in the community, they're going to look, one, to keep themselves safe, but they can also look to keep their the community safe. So provide tools for them so they can generate a positive response as they navigate into your community and your housing authority. Elder affairs, if you have an elder affairs component within your tribe, I know the Seminole Tribe has elder affairs. I know a lot of the tribes I visited have an elder component in there. You know, elders feel isolated, right? As we talked about earlier, they don't want to get old. No one wants to get old. So from elder housing and isolation prevention, you can provide opportunities for their houses to be set up a certain way. You know, you can have layouts to where housing designs are being considered for an elderly population. I know on one reservation, that I'm very familiar with outside of the state of Florida. They have an area where all their elders live in one area, right? So all the elders are kind of cordoned off, and all the houses are set with, you know, wider doors. Their bathrooms have the grab bars, the fixtures, you know, the whole area is designed to make sure you keep the elder population safe. So you want to collaborate with elder services, find out what those needs are. You want to collaborate with the health department so you can create an environment that elders can be safe. Sometimes we just take it for granted or through crisis, and we're dealing with that elder directly. If we bring everybody to the table, like the health department, elderly affairs, when we're starting an initiative, and ask them, you know, how should a house be set up for an elder person, right? What needs do you see? What are those shortcomings that you see within your program that can help tribal housing develop a very good core sound home that an elder can live in and really be safe and maintain their physical awareness and physical needs and be comfortable living in that house? Again, air quality, it's a very important aspect that you can partner with whoever does your air quality, go into the houses, make sure the respiratory is always improving, make sure there's no mold. Mold is a big issue that I know here in Florida because of the humidity and the rains, and then it doesn't get cold so much, but it gets so hot that people turn their air condition up so cold, and then with that fluctuation, sometimes mold creeps in because of the weather, and then we have mold issues, right? And then you don't find out till later on that there's mold growing on the inside of the wall. So you want to make sure you can partner with your air quality people. I'm very familiar with some tribes who have it in their health department, but you may have it stationed somewhere else, or you may use a third party to do that. If you use a third party, do an MOU with them, right? And have something in place that can provide you that opportunity to keep the air quality clean for your community. This slide, I'll talk a little bit about the real world success with FEMA. FEMA in the past has developed, I think, some of the policies they have in place are very good for Indian country. And I've experienced that. I've had the opportunity to work with FEMA over the last 10 years on issues that have come to the Seminole Tribe in my career, and they're very supportive, and they've always improved their policies, right? Doesn't mean that you're always going to agree with FEMA in their process, but as we know, I just wanted to go through a couple of things today because we don't know what the future is going to be look like when it comes to FEMA and how that service is going to be provided to the tribes as they move forward after hurricane season. So some of the areas that I want to use this slide to pass along to is that you want to start collaborating with all your programs, right? And the reason for that is because when you look at best practices, the subject matter experts are the program people that are there. You know, if FEMA is no longer around, the question you should ask yourself is, how do you exist? How do you exist without FEMA? How do you exist without the reimbursement process? Do you have the relationship with the state that you live in? Where do you get that reimbursement from? Does it come from the state? Is it something that the federal government is still going to support Indian country? All these questions we don't have the answers to just yet, but they'll come. They'll come over time, but we need to be prepared. But you as tribal housing, you can be prepared right now. You can start working in a manner that don't focus on FEMA and what they're going to do. You can focus on building your community, building your infrastructure, and target hardening your housing to make sure that if a critical event happens, that you don't have to rely on FEMA. You can work with your insurance company. You can work with your other tribal programs. Your tribe can create a pathway and an accountability movement to where you're going to accomplish everything as if FEMA was still there. You can implement all their processes they have to hold that accountability, but you're going to have to start looking at how do you develop that financial aspect if FEMA is no longer around. So you want to work with all these programs. You want to work with the health department. You want to work with the elder affairs. You want to work with education, recreation, infrastructure. You should be going to the table with all the tribal programs to determine what does your tribe look like if a critical event happens and FEMA is no longer around. Not saying that's going to happen. Again, we're all seeing the information that's out there. There's definitely a transition happening, but you need to start looking at, from a tribal housing standpoint, is your insurance company covering what you need them to cover? So I recommend through this training, to help with your all hazard preparedness process and your partnership and MOUs, is visit with your insurance company, find out exactly where you sit when it comes to the overall coverage. Now's the time to do it. Ask them the questions with FEMA. If FEMA does go away, where does your insurance company sit? How can they provide a higher level of service to you to compensate for what FEMA would usually bring to you? So that's something that I'm encouraged to pass along to you, because policy and funding is going to be an issue, right? It's something you're going to have to look at. You may have to increase your policies. You may have to look at determining, do you have a tribal emergency fund that you create that is only used for specific crises, right? So you may have to allocate funding more than what you're doing now to compensate for those issues if FEMA is no longer around or you lose that funding component. So it's something you want to look at just so you can manage it. If nothing changes, you're in a good position. You've just kind of did an exercise to re-educate yourself to make sure that you're covered and that you're well positioned. But you want to start looking at the fact of, where does your tribe sit when it comes to the overall process of the alignment with FEMA? You want to make sure that you determine that, and then you have those difficult discussions. Now's the time to start it. Now's the time to start it so you can have those successes as we did in the past and as you did in the past in your organizations. Let's talk a little bit about justice reinterest programs. You know, I know we dealt with this with the Seminole Tribe, where we had people that came out of the justice system and they needed to live in tribal housing. You want to make sure you have a policy that addresses this. You want to make sure you have a pre-release planning process, right? The housing and justice coordinator before the release. You know, I know we had our chaplaincy was the one who dealt with our issues when it came to when individuals going to be released from prison or jail. So we had a heads up and we had the advance where we knew when they were going to get out, where they were going to live. And so we were able to work with housing to identify, to make sure they weren't violating any law or any requirements that the court puts on them. So you want to make sure that you have that in place, a pre-planning release. Get with your public safety people or your chaplaincy. You know, chaplaincy is a good one because they can go in and support the tribal member or whoever it is in prison or in jail, and kind of just let them know people care about them. And when they come out, they have a fresh start. And if they know they can come out and work and live in a housing community and abide by all the rules and laws and create a good life moving forward, then they're going to be a little bit more comfortable as they come out, and they'll work with you in a better light. You want to look at supporting the entire environment. And it's just not housing. You can do this in a group meeting. So if you meet every week or quarterly, you know, depending on when people get released in your area, you know, you can have this as a general discussion that comes up, but you clearly want to have a policy, a pre-release planning policy, and how you deal with those issues. We had a member who lived in tribal housing who met the criteria for sexual predator, and what a hurricane was coming, they had to be evacuated from their home, and they couldn't go to a shelter because the shelter, there was kids in it. So they had to go somewhere else. Well, they couldn't leave the county because that's part of their criteria of punishment. So they had to go check themselves into jail till after the storm took place. So you want to make sure that you have that down of exactly what happens if somebody gets out from pre-detention and they come out and they have to live in your community. You just want to make sure you have a plan in place to take care of your customer, because although they may have made bad decisions in the past, they may have changed and they're a current customer for you now, and you want to do everything you can to make sure you can take care of them just like you take care of everybody else. So tribal housing authorities partner with the justice system or justice partners that you have within your community, so you can create supportive pathways and policies to members returning from incarceration. They're just looking to get back on their feet on their ground and get back into the community. Hopefully they stay straight, but it gives you the opportunity to collaborate and work with them so they can come back to a stable environment, a stable community. Successful reentry programs recognize housing as a foundation for stability and combined it with employment assistance, behavioral health support, and cultural reconnection activities. This comprehensive approach reduces them from going back into jail or prison, and it strengthens the bond, right? So if they're moving into your community and you have a plan, you can work with your human resource department if they're going to end up working for the tribe. There's so many different areas you can work with. You follow the laws, don't violate any HEPA or any confidential information, but it provides you that opportunity to have a good, well-grounded environment for them to be successful and a safe environment for you in the community that you're serving. As we look at housing securities and homes, one of the things you may want to look at in your housing community is start some sort of activity where everybody can get involved, like a community garden space, right? And make it of interest to everybody. Kind of go back to the roots of how things were done in the past. It gives people purpose. People enjoy, the growth of life. So you can bring things together when it comes to your housing community. If you have that area, think about having a community garden. You can use that community garden to assist you when you have banquets or monthly gatherings, community meetings. You can use those vegetables that you may grow, or the watermelon, or any other item that you grow. You can use that as part of, so you reap all the benefits of the hard work and everybody has input into the community garden. This is just an idea that you can throw out that can bring not just your residents together, but you can bring your programs together as well. That can create this infrastructure and build something like this out for you. So then you may have emergency food access if something does happen. So little things like this, it's not going to, keep it going for years and years and years and keep you where the food supplies for years and years and years, but it gives you that opportunity to bring everybody together, break bread together, work together for the common good, and enjoy doing it. So when we look at some of the cross-sector partnership starter kits, when I look at like a mutual aid packet, you want to look at customizing an introduction and an invitation for the contract itself to your partners. Give them a script. Let them know kind of what it's all about, right? Why you're doing this, what it means to you, how they can benefit from it. You want to discuss shared goals. Provide them that worksheet that shows what those goals are and what you plan on accomplishing, right? Structure the format so it shows collaboration. It shows them working together with you and your team, right? Create that checklist, regardless if it's from a health checklist or a public safety checklist, emergency management checklist. You can create those checklists that can provide them a clear picture that it's a benefit for them to partner with you and to sign the MOU. And then, of course, you want to do the timeline again, map out what you want to do, and then you keep it as a flowing document. Within the next 3 years, we want to do this, right? Now it may take you 5 years, so you change the document when you identify that it's going to take you 5 years. But this is a practical tool that can help your housing authority initiate and maintain that partnership with every program. So you're going to have a starter kit that starts as a starter kit, but becomes the formal template that's customized for each program that you're going to partner with. As you look at collaborating, something easy you can do is here's a slide you can use that map out, so it's easy read so people can see, right? Your internal partners would be tribal council, elder council, cultural department, health department. This is something that you can change these titles: internal, tribal, local partners, state and regional partners, federal partners. You can change these titles to make it work for you, but you can create an ecosystem map that allows you to visualize what you have, right? And when you get this map all written out, you're going to see really all the work that you've done. It gives you the opportunity to really see the phenomenal work that you're doing, the phenomenal work that the staff is doing. It gives you that opportunity to visualize where you're at and where you're going in the future. Interactive maps are great. I know from an emergency management standpoint, I was big on making sure in the EOC, the Emergency Operations Center, we had maps all over the room. And those maps had, pictures of roads. It had stickies like the one that's in the picture there. We had phone numbers and who was in charge. We had the information when it came to who's responsible for what, when the next phone call was going to be, all the pertinent numbers that are on there. You want to create an interactive mapping system. A lot of people are computer friendly and they can deal with software. Some people can't. So you want to keep it simple or find that balance that works for your organization. You can use digital tools or you can go old school and use it on the whiteboard. There's the screens that have whiteboards on them, the TVs that you can use that are whiteboards, and they can also be used as monitors for WebEx or I know Citrix has one that's very dynamic. Vibe has another one. Those boards are really good that you can utilize, and you can be very dynamic and move whatever visual approach that you need. But you want to create an interactive map whenever you have something going on, and that will help you also write down who you have partnerships with, so it's right at everybody's fingertips and people are reminded of those partnerships. When we look at learning from each other, we look at the past. Everything we do, we should have a lessons learned, and that's what is traditionally known as an after-action report. You want to make sure you do an after-action report that gives you the opportunity to learn and to really highlight what you do great, highlight what you may not do so great, and highlight that maybe things you should have done that you didn't do, right? So you want to make sure that you're honest in that reflection. You want to make sure that when it comes to your partnerships that you identify those challenges that you may have with your partners, so that way you can gain the insight of what needs to be done, and also they can gain the insight that needs to be done, so you can work together and strengthen that partnership for future crises or events that come up. From an emergency response scenario, this is a scenario that I put together. Again, you have post-storm housing crisis, severe storm damage, multiple housing units, leaving families in the infrastructure displaced and compromised. Your housing authority must coordinate immediate response. What's your response? The coordination is you identify partners to contact first. You establish the communication location. You begin assessing those immediate needs. You determine the roles that you want your staff to do, and you determine the roles that the mutual aid partners are going to do, right? Then you mobilize those resources. You develop a plan for securing, if you need to secure a housing shelter, what supplies you're going to need, what contractors or vendors you're going to need, what funding source you're going to need, and what needs to be approved through the entire process. And then, of course, the recovery planning for the future. Get things back to normal. You want to create a collaborative approach for housing repairs, the residents to move back in, and what they're going to do if they can't move back in. How does that look? How does that plan look? And then you want to establish communication protocols for keeping the residents and your mutual aid partners up to date and where everything's at, right? So you want to make sure this scenario, in this specific scenario, that you have all this down for a successful operation. And that's through not working in a silo. It's working with partners and partnering with the community and working together from the start of the event to the end of the event. This is just a worksheet that you can use, as far as the moving forward with the post-webinar. You can use this template. This is a planning worksheet that helps translate some of the concepts we discussed in this webinar. You can identify specific tasks, the timelines, the resources, and who's responsible for the team. You want to look if it's tribal housing that's going to be doing it or somebody else going to be doing it. right? You consider adding some columns that track they challenge the encounters or even the outcomes that were achieved. You create a comprehensive implementation monitoring tool that supports ongoing partnership and development. Little areas like this and spreadsheets like this, if you can send it out to your staff, let them know what's going on, and it gives everybody the visual picture of really the work that's being done or the timeline that it has to be done. It provides that opportunity to kind of see things at a 10,000 foot level instead of everyone just hearing somebody talk. They have the opportunity to read it and comprehend it, and it's at their fingertips, right? Some key resources for tribal housing. Again, there's online hubs that are out there that you can use. The federal systems that are there. HUD has a specialized resource for Tribal Housing Authority. They have a great partnership that you can do. FEMA, again, although there's possible some change coming, they have a lot of great courses that you can capitalize on. I highly encourage you. They're free. Sign up for those FEMA courses, and as you're sitting around, just chip away with them, every day. Just put 20 minutes, 30 minutes aside. Put your phone down, go over the FEMA courses, and that will help you kind of align your tribal housing toolkit, right, to better understand what you can do, how you can partner with others to be successful in your community. As we traveled through our collective journey today, we looked at the community transformation. We looked at sustaining partnerships and the relationship. We collaborated on some of the collaboration skills. And of course, we want to make sure we always have that cultural foundation in everything we do. So as we conclude on this collective impact for tribal housing authorities, remember, it's about working together. It's both a journey and a destination. Partnerships will help you build and create foundations for a stronger, healthier tribal housing community tomorrow. By honoring traditional values, embrace your collaborative approaches. Tribal housing authorities can create housing systems that not only provide support and shelter, but also strengthen the cultural connections, improve health outcomes. You can build resiliency for generations to come. And the other thing is you can feel good about taking care of others and having a servant heart. I'll take any questions. I have 3 minutes. The last ones I went over like 4 or 5 minutes, the last webinars. Juliet or anybody else have any questions? All right, thank you. I appreciate everybody being on today and the opportunity to train over the last 4 days. This will conclude the All Hazard Preparedness and Partnership series. My information for direct contact is right here. My email is in the chat with my phone number up at the top. I appreciate the attention and the opportunity to be able to serve you and provide some training material for the last 4 days and 90 minutes. I want to thank Native Learning Center for the hospitality and the leadership they give. Without them, a lot of information would be kind of stovepiped into silos. So Native Learning Center with the leadership of Executive Director Smith and Jasmine and Brooke and Kyle Doney, they step up and they want to make sure the Indian country has what they need to ensure that tribal housing is at the highest level. So I recognize and appreciate their dedication. So thank you for your time today. Everybody have a great weekend. Happy Father's Day to the fathers. And we look forward to more training in the future. Brooke, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yay! Thank you so much, Will. That was another fantastic webinar. Sorry, getting my camera turned back on. There we go. But yeah, happy early Father's Day. I have put the webinar feedback survey link into the chat. Like I said before, it is actually a different survey for each day of the training. If y'all don't mind taking a few minutes to complete, lets us know what's working well, what we can improve upon for the future. There's even a spot where you can recommend future webinar topics that you would like us to secure. But that link is in the chat for you. We hope you can join us for our next webinar. That's going to be in a couple weeks on the 26th. This will be on collaborative grant writing, playing well with other grant professionals. That'll be presented by Diane Leonard. She's the president at DH Leonard Consulting and Grant Writing Services. Same time, same place. You'll just log on to the learning platform and you'll see that green banner. It'll be 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central, 12 p.m. Mountain, 11 a.m. Pacific, and 10 a.m. Alaska. You can check out this recording as well as our other recorded webinars on our YouTube channel. We have a whole playlist called the Cathedra Webinars Archive. I encourage you to go through that resource. You know, YouTube is free for everyone to use, and we have a lot of gems on there, quite a bit of information. So if there's a certain topic you're trying to learn and we have it available, I definitely recommend checking out our recordings. Check out our check out our other upcoming training events. We post about them to our various social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. And if you're a podcast fan, we have one that we do here. We produce it in-house, the Hope a Thing, a Native American podcast. You can listen to that wherever you listen to your podcasts. Or if you like to watch the videos as we interview our guests, we post on those, post those to our YouTube as well. But otherwise, that is all we have for y'all today. Again, hopefully your Friday the 13th has been more lucky than not, and happy early Father's Day to the fathers, especially you, Dr. Blatchford.
Thank you very much.
Of course. But that is all we have for y'all today. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.